Hi everybody, it's Julianne and I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I wanted to do part 2 of a short introduction and overview to the buzzwords of the Fourth Industrial Revolution and the New World Order. I did a part 1 and I just posted it on my timeline if you want to look at the part 1, but I got interrupted by someone who arrived at my home, so I had to quit the video, and it was fine because we were just going over number 6. So just for the sake of anyone who's coming on board and did not see the part 1, I'll do a quick review of the first 5 buzzwords and just kind of talk through some of those concepts, and then we'll cover the last 5. So these are words that you'll see in the marketing materials of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, of the New World Order, of inclusive capitalism, the Great Reset, the Build Back Better, any of those different programs, program names that I think fall under the larger project of creating a new world order. They all use the same language. So this is a tool that we all have. It's our ability to recognize patterns, and they're very blatant and I would say cheesy patterns, for lack of a better word. Like the language is jarring. It should grab your attention, especially if you have any sort of appreciation for language and literature and careful expression. These words are, they're just used over and over again, and they're actually very slippery words. They've been market tested to make sure that people will respond positively to them, and to make sure that they sort of cover up the nefarious meaning that is, not so often seen by people who care to do well by others. And most of us do want to do well by others, and the proponents of the New World Order understand that. They have done studies about human motivation and behavioral psychology, different game theories, and so they have found that one of the most powerful motivating factors for most of us, most human beings, is the possibility of doing well for another person or doing good for another person. So, we want to contribute to positive social change. They know that, and so these buzzwords, they have a sense of positivity to them. And the social engineers, they understand that because we're motivated by the desire to help our fellows, we're going to look at that positive meaning, that positive spin, and we're going to ignore the nefarious meaning and intent behind these words. So that's what I try to do, is just show you, how words like sustainable, which to most of us it's going to sound like, oh yay, we're going to use fewer disposable goods. We're going to use reusable fuels. We're going to be more careful in our use of natural resources and protect the environment so that we can leave a healthy planet to our children, or whatever. That's what most of us would think of when we hear the term sustainability. What it really means, and I talked about this last time, is it really means managed and rationed. And that has to do with the kind of economic system that our social engineers have developed in order to create a type of economy that has the potential for economic growth without using up scarce resources. So you're going to decouple economic growth and the possibility of financial gain from the use of limited resources, scarce resources. The social engineers have figured out that a reflexive feedback loop or circular economy or sharing economy is the best way for them to make sure that we consume less, and that our inputs in terms of productivity and human capital, those are balanced by, or those, I'm sorry, those balance out what we consume, what we take from the system. So they want to balance an energy load, and they're going to measure, say, your worth as a person, and that's going to determine how much you can take from the environment and from the economy. So they want to have this balanced load, and there are too many human beings out there, so they want to find a way to have economic growth that is separated from the consumption of resources, because we're consuming too much. So they want to train all of us not to use those things, but still they want to fool us into thinking that the economy is going to grow, and our material conditions are going to be fine, and we're going to have the possibility to move up the social ladder and leave a better legacy for our children than we had. That's all a lie, because what they're setting up is the opposite of that, where it's going to be a caste system. So anyway, so we think of environmental responsibility, and even the social engineers will use that term, but really it means managed and rationed. Sustainable does. It is the development of a managed economy and rationed resources that have to do with these evaluations of your worth as a human being in terms of human capital and what you contribute to the workforce. So resilience is another really important buzzword. I go through it in a talk on the framework for inclusive capitalism. What resilience means is the ability to bounce back from some kind of unexpected disruption. And we're talking about big disruptions like a pandemic, declared pandemic, or some kind of a natural disaster, which I think we'll probably see, especially after this COP26 that's going on. Some kind of natural disaster or another pandemic. They've hinted at these types of things, that they're supposed to be regular events occurring in our globalized and fragile world. So resilience means the ability to respond to those disruptions without creating stoppages in work and in economic growth. So what it looks like is being adaptable, which is really moving everything online, doing things digitally. In the case of a healthcare scare, we have to be isolated from each other. And of course, I'm sort of talking in their voice because I think the whole thing's a sham. But we have to be able to work remotely so that we don't harm each other, by transmitting a virus or whatever. If we can work remotely and we have those digital systems set up, then we are resilient. You can keep making the money, even though the world is in a crisis. Okay, so it has to do with digital infrastructure, remote work, having job sharing and gig work, so that no one employee's job is so important that if that person can't work remotely or doesn't have proper connectivity, someone else can't come in and do the job and keep that company going, because the corporations are really going to save us. So those are some of the synonyms for resilient, and the ideas that go along with it: adaptable, digital, preventable. And then, my sort of true definition of resilience is it's a predictive risk model, and it's a model for corporations and government, and those two are going to be conjoined under inclusive capitalism, is a way for those corporations to hedge their bets against, any kind of risk to their bottom line. Okay, it's not about protecting workers. It's not about our society more broadly. It's really about corporations protecting their bottom line, and they're going to be working with the government to do that. So, involved in predictive risk profiling is, it's the management of risk. So you're going to have all kinds of compliance structures, training that, make sure that you have been briefed on what needs to be done, and you check all of the boxes, and they can pass liability on to the individual worker for, not, wearing a mask in an elevator or something silly like this, okay? But it's really going to turn into a pre-crime unit is where that's going. Equity, some other words, fairness, alignment, prosperity. It really means standardized outcomes, and we get those standardized outcomes by, again, measuring the value of a worker's contributions to the overall economy or the corporate bottom line, and you standardize the metrics on which someone is ranked, and then we compare. We say, well, what does the economy need right now, and what is this person able to contribute? And then you come up with a sort of formula for what a person's worth and how many carbon credits they get. Now, are we the people going to have any say in this? No way. It's going to be unelected task forces. It's going to be corporate boards. It's going to be, secret society, meetings that do this. It's not going to be the people at all. We're just going to be on the receiving end of equity, and we're all going to take it because it's fair, right? It's equitable, which is not the same thing as equal. This is about redistributing wealth, so and other things, not just financial wealth, but like reputation capital and access to different services and privileges and things like that. It's all going to be decided by the algorithms. Okay. Inclusivity. And this is where we talk about making sure that everyone participates in the system. Under inclusive capitalism, really what that means is that they want everyone to be working. Everyone. So it doesn't matter if you're 85 and have been retired or planned on being retired. As long as you're eating, you need to be working. So it wants to bring everyone in. Breaks down national barriers, and really what it leads to when we start to dig into it is the abolition of individual rights, because everything is measured by the good of the community. Innovation, that has to do really with all of the fourth industrial revolution technology, quantum computing, fintech, digital work, avatars, the metaverse, all of that goes under innovation. It's new ways of doing things that can be tracked and traced, really. I mean, that's what innovation sets up for, is the infrastructure for track and trace. Okay, so number 6, and this is, I said I was not going to take very long, but gosh, I always do that. Collaboration. This is another very important word, and doesn't it sound nice? We're all going to collaborate. We're going to finally get over partisan politics. It's going to be bipartisan all the way. We're going to, in fact, put politics aside and just use data to make decisions. So it's going to be evidence-based. It's going to be results-oriented, pragmatism. You're going to hear all of those words, and really what that kind of language is doing is setting us up for the, again, abolition of politics. Now, politics is a messy process. It's totally corrupt right now. You should have no faith in politics. But, it's better than the alternative. And if we go back to like Aristotle and Plato and classical political theory, politics really has to do with the deliberations about what is good and just, and it has to do with making choices about what those things mean in our societies. By ending politics, you're ending those discussions, and they really want to end those discussions. So collaboration really means getting everyone all on the same page so that you don't have to have any sort of discussion. And I mentioned this at the end of the last video. I just went through these 5 conditions of collective impact. There's a very important paper by, it's in 2011, I'm trying to see my paper over there where I have their names. It's Kramer and Kramer, something like this. Anyway, it's in the Stanford Social Innovation Review. I've posted it before. You can look on my profile for collective impact, and you'll find the article pretty easily. This is the epitome of collaboration under this new world order model, and it has their 5 conditions of collective impact. Now, what this means is like making some kind of positive difference in your community, and it talks about, it's a strategy for organizing many different stakeholders, so business, civil society, NGOs, and government all work together to pursue some sort of outcomes that have been agreed upon as good in this collaborative, non-political way. Now, what those outcomes and goals are encapsulated in the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Or, there are other sets and lists, and, I've been looking at Noahide law. There are 7 Noahide laws, and really I think for the United States, we're going to see those pushed more strongly than the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and that just has to do with our culture here. I think people would probably take the Noahide laws more than the SDGs, and that's really a shame because it's very dangerous. But in any event, collaboration it uses things like partnership, community, integration of different systems of collecting data, of data sets. We can use the term common vision, seamless, frictionless data sharing, networking, and building ecosystems. All of those things go into collaboration, and when we're collaborating, it's toward these goals that are outlined in the SDGs. And the social innovation theorists, the social engineers, they have this collective impact model that has 5 pillars. And at the risk of drawing this out, and making this too long, I'm just going to read them, because when I first read these, I thought, oh my gosh, I really cannot believe anyone actually printed this, because it is fascism, okay? But this gives you a sense of what collaboration in this doublespeak language really looks like. I have here just, so you know where we're going. It's systems alignment. Everything is going to be aligned. Systems are going to be formed. Every single person is going to have their place in society, and it's all going to be engineered toward this, again, like nonpartisan or bipartisan set of goals that we have not ratified or approved in any way. But here are the 5 conditions of collective impact. Number 1 is a common agenda, and this means, I'm just going to read this, all participants share a vision for change that includes a common understanding of the problem and a joint approach to solving the problem through agreed upon actions. There's no room for dissent. There's no room for questioning there. It is, everyone has a common understanding of the problem. Do we have a pandemic? Do we not? And everyone has agreed to engage in this joint approach to solving the problem through agreed upon actions. Those are agreed upon by task forces and backbone organizations, which I'll get to. The second pillar or condition of collective impact is shared measurement. All participating organizations agree on the ways that success will be measured and reported, with a short list of common indicators identified and used for learning and improvement. Now, if you look at, some of the things that I've posted here, I'll just hold this up to the camera. Here's one. Government and the Impact Economy by Deloitte. They're the bad guys. Everything that they publish is bad. Can I say that? This was from 2012. It's a GovLab study. And whoops. Okay, I dropped a paper. And what they talk about is, look, I can show you this, standardizing and tracking metrics. And I have plenty of information on my page about that, but you can see it all over, all over Time Magazine, all over the major investing, white papers. Everyone is talking about standardized metrics, and that is for collective impact, shared measurement, that pillar. And what this is, I'm going to read from the Deloitte study here. It says current methods for, and remember 2012 is when this was. I think maybe it was 2016. Current methods for measuring social good are driven by individual investors, each using its own ways to measure the impact of investments. So see, this is really a financial scheme. The lack of common metrics makes it difficult for new entrants to the market to compare different business models and investment opportunities. So we want to make sure that the hedge funds get the best information. Many of the metrics used, moreover, are inadequate. Tracking inputs, for example, contact hours with a health coach, or outputs, for example, hours of physical activity, rather than the results achieved. And an example would be reduction in obesity levels. This makes it difficult to gauge whether an investment will actually make a difference, and if so, how much. And it goes on. As with platform development, the government could lead an effort to accelerate the adoption of uniform standards of measurement for impact investments, social enterprises, and other impact economy tools. Standardized metrics would help improve transparency. That is number 7. In the sector by making it easier to compare transactions, business models, and the impact of given interventions, allowing investors to make more informed decisions. So under collaboration, I guess these two go together. They're talking about shared measurement, and we're seeing that for, really a decade at least, we're talking about getting all partners to the Inclusive Capitalism new social compact, and it's called a compact, to agree to use the same kinds of metrics and to report them in the same way. And that facilitates this collaborative approach to realizing the goals that one organization or another is pursuing, as an agreed upon action, pursuing the UN SDGs or whatever. So everything is going to be, it's all going to be standardized and tracked, and that's really what your vaccine passport is for, what the Common Pass is for, what digital identity is for. It's for making sure that those different metrics can be tied to your ID and that they can be shared with whoever wants to make an investment in some enterprise that depends on your human capital score. Okay. Number 3 under the conditions of collective impact is mutually reinforcing activities. So this means that all organizations that are participating in the collective impact organization, it's a larger umbrella organization. For example, we have Community Service Council of Tulsa, we have Impact Tulsa, we have United Way. That's one that's everywhere. Anyone who works with them is going to participate in these mutually reinforcing activities. And it says here, a diverse set of stakeholders, typically across sectors, so healthcare, education, etc. They coordinate a set of differentiated activities through a mutually reinforcing plan of action. So you get all of your educators to do the same thing to pursue the same goal that the healthcare workers are pursuing, And so what would that goal be? Well, here in 2021, it is the transition to the impact economy and inclusive capitalism. So we see that many different sectors of our economy, of our societies, they're all pursuing the same goal in their own ways, but in ways that reinforce the activities of others. Number 4, under conditions of collective impact, is continuous communication. And that means all players engage in frequent and structured open communication, so surveilled communication, to build trust, assure mutual objectives, and create common motivation. So there you go. That is like groupthink. You have to be aligned. Everything needs to happen out in the open or in some surveilled or trackable or traceable way, because we want to know what you're saying and we want to make sure that we can trust you, and we can make sure that we're all motivated by the same things. So fascism, right? And the last condition of collective impact, I'm sorry, I know this is long, is backbone support. And what that means is that an independent funded staff dedicated to the initiative that they're pursuing, what maybe it's SDG 1 or SDG 6 or something like this. An independent funded staff dedicated to the initiative provides ongoing support by guiding the initiative's vision and strategy, supporting aligned activities, establishing shared measurement practices, building public will, that's your impact media propaganda, advancing policy, and mobilizing. So you have groups, organizations that are leading this collaboration, and they are businesses, governments, NGOs working together. Usually their efforts are coordinated by one of these independent funded staffs that are dedicated to whatever initiative it is. So for example, here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, USA, where I am, our smarmy mayor just, I posted a picture of him from the Tulsa World where, he's talking about this epical moment for Tulsa, and we need to get business and government and the private sector all aligned. So he's talking about, bringing inclusive capitalism here, making it our model, but it's, there has to be a backbone support group that really coordinates the activities of all of those different groups, the NGOs, the government, and then business, for-profit business. Well, that backbone support group is probably going to be one of the foundations or a spin-off of a philanthropic foundation that is in your community, and they're going to call all the shots, and they're going to decide what goals are going to be pursued. They're going to fund the infrastructure for tracking and tracing those goals, and if you keep up with my profile at all, you see plenty of of dirt about Tulsa, Oklahoma, and who's doing that. But the important thing to know is that this is a professional change organization, change agent populated organization. It's not directed by people voting. There is no meaningful solicitation of public opinion, and really, they despise the public, so it makes sense that they would not ask. But in terms of making our case, a case for overthrowing this terrible plan that's being rolled out, I think it is helpful to emphasize the fact that what we have been taught to believe for so long about the integrity of political systems, like that is it, that we can draw on people's residual beliefs about the legitimacy of, say, the U.S. Constitution or common law or anything like that, and we can say, look, this violates that in every single way. So use what public opinion there is left, and we have to use all the tools that we have, but we can argue that this collective impact model, the kind of collaboration that is associated with the New World Order, it is a panel of experts that aren't really experts, probably. They're just rich, and they're going to be telling all of us what to do. So that's what collaboration is. Okay, my seventh word is accountability. Other words for this, I just read some of them in the Deloitte paper: trust, transparency, verifiable. That means, you can check it digitally. Secure, data-driven, evidence-based. So, I think we're going to see a lot about corruption and, systems infiltration, and, you've seen that with, with the U.S. elections. They've all been so screwed up. It's just, it's blatant fraud, right? So that is a problem that's going to create a reaction, and then this is going to be the solution. We want everything on blockchain so that it's all trackable, traceable, trustable, verifiable, and we can know for sure that it's how it's supposed to be. Well, this gets you to blockchain-based digital identity and, some kind of a digital tag that is going to it's going to be the vehicle for carrying your permanent digital ledger. And everything that you do, your entire life, is going to be recorded to that ledger. Things that we can't even imagine that are being recorded are going to be recorded through the Internet of Things, the Internet of Bodies. So what accountability means, it does not mean anti-corruption or doing things the right way. What it really means is trackable, traceable through blockchain digital identity. Okay, number 8, diversity. Some other words for this are global. We have a new global interconnected world. You might hear human 2.0, multicultural. There's a lot of talk about vulnerable and underserved populations, undeveloped or underdeveloped countries. Those all sort of fall under the word diversity, and really we hear climate change and the public health crisis, and then structural racism and inequality tied to race. Those are like the trifecta of the crises that are being used to justify the rollout of the New World Order. And with diversity here, all of the structural racism comes under that. Now, what it really means, let me see if I've got my marker. Okay. What diversity really means when you see this is you should think it's an end to meritocracy. And most people could guess that into meritocracy. So what you actually contribute to the productivity of your company, even though that's how you're going to be managed in terms of human capital, what you contribute does not really determine what you get back. Sorry, this is a funny angle. And I think that has been a discussion that people are familiar with. What we might not think so much of is that really it's a divide and conquer. A lot of times when we talk about making sure that the workplace is diverse, then we're thinking, oh, we're going to make things more equitable, we're going to sort of right wrongs from the past. No, really what it's going to do is designed to divide and conquer the 99%. And it's also designed to sort of force disruptions into the workplace. So we want to shift the makeup of boards, of managerial levels, of just the general working population. And it's designed to create sort of chaos in the workplace, but most companies are going to have to prove that they are diverse and inclusive enough. So they're going to go out and start hiring different, people of different races or different backgrounds, different religions, different sexual orientations, just so that they can check off the box of the shared value metrics, or these what did I call them? The different stakeholder capitalism metrics. Companies are not going to receive investments from the large banks unless they can prove that they are diverse. So they're going to go on hiring sprees, just finding anyone who will fill these positions who has these demographic characteristics that could, you hope that they would find a person who has the talent and the capacity to do these jobs, and is, has one of these characteristics, but probably it's just about dividing and conquering and causing more disruption, because really this impact economy is an economy that makes a profit off of trauma. So if you can traumatize people by, reorganizing a corporation, or just keeping people wondering what's going to happen next, then you're creating stress. Then they go to, people are going to go talk to a counselor at their human resources department and maybe get a wellness consultation, and then it just starts a cycle, a sustainable finance cycle. So it's divide and conquer, and then creating these disruptions, which mean that we have more justification to implement further resilience measures. Thank you for bearing with me. It's late here. It's almost, it's almost midnight here. Number 9, leadership. This is one of my favorites because there's an article that came out from Inside Higher Ed, which is like one of the higher education rags that prints a bunch of propaganda, and they had an article actually entitled "Followership on Campus." So it says how to be a good follower, and really what we should think of. Leadership, lots of things fall under it. Entrepreneurship, startups, they're leaders in the community. Social capital, influencers, thought leaders, change agents. I just can't stand those words. Alignment, mission-driven, purpose-driven, mission-aligned. All of these words have to do with leadership, and sometimes innovation goes with it. They're all connected. But what leadership really means is followership, and you're committed to corporate purpose. So that means that you've gone to your collective impact meeting. You have learned all of the different metrics that you're going to track and trace. You have learned all of the important values that your entire community needs to follow, and you're going to go out there and you're going to talk the talk and walk the walk. And if you have ever run into someone who's done one of these leadership institutes, there are tons of them. Just Google leadership and then your city, and you'll find many of these different leadership institutes. It's all of this corporate junk that dumbs things down and gives you like 6 steps to being a winner, And really, your 6 steps to being a winner are to, just be committed to this corporate purpose. So you're gonna push the vaccines. You're going to make sure that you have just the right number of people of each different race, and you're not going to care about the actual people involved. You're just going to care about getting your numbers correct. That's what leadership is. It's just following the change agents in the community who are doing the collaborating and ruining our society. The last one, this is very important. It's impact, which really means like a collision, like one solid body crashing into another. But people don't think about that. Really, we associate it with things like opportunity or vision, the promise, gaps that are going to be filled in by some change agent or foundation that's going to offer to pay, budgetary gaps, fill in the gaps through a grant, or you're going to address gaps in lifespan that might be, somehow correlated to, your zip code or something like this. Outcomes and results, those are also terms for impact. So when we talk about impact investing, impact really is a measurable change, a change in the outcome. So in the Deloitte paper I read, it talks about, well, we don't want to measure inputs, we want to and outputs. Rather, we want to measure results achieved. And so, the 3 examples from the paper, the white paper, were, tracking inputs would be like contact hours with a health coach. Outputs would be hours of physical activity, so that exercise. And those things we don't want to measure anymore. So those don't go to the impact of something. Rather, we want to look at outcomes, and that would be something like a reduction in obesity level. So you're looking at what do you call it, a delta coefficient, like the change from, a situation at one point in time to this situation after an intervention has been made, and you measure the rate of, or the rate of change or the amount of change, and that is your impact. And what impact investors are doing is they are trying to invest in social amelioration programs that claim to deliver some sort of result achieved or some sort of outcome impact that can be measured and evaluated in terms of its success. So I like to think about it, and this is not my term, I did not come up with this, it's actually in their literature. Think of impact investments as making big bets, and impact is like the spread. Like when you're talking about a horse race or something like this, or an important basketball game, and like Vegas has established a spread for the game. That's what impact investors are betting on. And that spread it's tied to some sort of trackable, traceable, measurable outcome that is related somehow to these UN SDGs. So I'd have to look up what number health and wellness would be, in terms of the SDGs, but you could look at reduction in obesity levels as contributing to SDG number, whatever it is. And that's how we need to think of what impact is. When you see the words opportunity, there's an opportunity for this. What that means is that you can set up a pay for success program, or an impact investing program, or ESG investing program, environmental, social, governance goals. And there's a possibility that there's a spread that you can bet on. Okay, so vision, when I say this, our vision is for this, and you're casting out some future goal, and you're saying, I want to meet that, and then you're going to track your progress toward it. So, let's see. So I said it's a measurable change. And another way to think of this is it is proof of social engineering. Sorry, I'm at a weird angle here, but it's dark, so my lighting is different. I had to tweak with it. Okay, so impact is the proof of social engineering. When you're going to see every NGO, every charity is going to submit some kind of an impact report. Corporations are going to publish an annual impact report, and that's when they say, we have fed 1,000 people. We took so many homeless people off the streets. We did this and that. So it is, and all those programs are harvesting data, and I won't go into all of that on what was supposed to be a short video, but it really is the proof of the social engineering. And what is that for the purpose of? It's for the purpose of, again, this is back to the Deloitte paper, Government and the Impact Economy. The purpose of tracking impact is for individual investors to be able to measure the impact of investments, so that, let's see, I'm trying to paraphrase this. Okay, standard metrics would, and that's your impact, would improve transparency in the sector by making it easier to compare transactions, business models, and the impact of given interventions, allowing investors to make more informed decisions that are going to be more lucrative for them. So those are your buzzwords. Whenever you see them, you're dealing with a 4IR program. So you're going to see lots of programs roll out that say, we're going to address the failing economy. We're going to address the health crisis. We're going to address the shortage of, healthcare workers, or whatever, problem they want to address that they have created. And they're going to have all of these different words over and over again. And whenever you see those, you know that they are doing something that has to do with the rollout of inclusive capitalism, the Great Reset, technocracy, communitarianism. All of these words can apply to this dystopian hell that it's rolling out right now, and it all is based on digital identity. But we can stop it if we educate people about what these words mean, because people are confused. They are going to need help. People are going to be out of work. They're going to be hungry. They're not going to have clothing. Kids already are stressed out, traumatized. Now I don't even want to mention what they're doing with those jabs. But like I said, this whole system, the New World Order system, it thrives on trauma. You break something so that you can fix it, and that's your sustainable economy. So how do you fix it? They want to fix it in ways that are lucrative to investors. And whenever you see these words, that means that this program has been developed in anticipation of a trauma, of something that could be financially lucrative for the people who are causing all of the distress that we're seeing right now. Anyway, so anyway, I hope this helps explain things. It looks like there's some comments, but I'm not very good at, like, I never know where to look on these videos anyway, so it's hard for me to keep up with them. But I hope this was helpful, and I'll try to do some more little videos like this. And thanks for fighting, thanks for supporting, and you guys have a good night.